Now we start with U.S. and China. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that China would buy U.S. soybeans and other farm products. Trump has also stated that Washington and Beijing had talks on this subject on Friday. Trump has said that he expects the purchases are already underway and would take place before the spring. He has also added that top officials spoke to Chinese counterparts, but he did not say from who the government had been engaged in the talks. U.S. farmers are expected to reap a record large corn crop this year. However, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has slightly lowered its forecast for U.S. corn and soybeans this week. Let's in fact listen to what President Trump has said.
Speaking of China, since you made the deal, since you struck the deal with them, has the Chinese agreed to actually purchase any soybeans? Have they locked in any soybean purchases?
Yeah, and they're in the process of doing it. We spoke to them today. They're in the process of doing not only a little bit, but they'll be doing a lot of soybean purchase.
Do you know when? In the spring?
It's starting. Before then. I think before then. Okay. It's starting. They'll be buying a lot of soybeans, but really, Jennifer, a lot of everything else.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Satoru, for joining us again. Good to see you. Dr. Satoru, looking at this, what are we to make of the current situation between President Donald Trump and President Xi regarding the soybean purchases of China?
Indeed, this is a political issue, not a business issue. View from the business, indeed, because of the amount of the soybean China has already got, price is declining and they have enough soybeans. So that's why they do not need to import soybeans from the United States. But politically, because of the US-China, they try to deal and they agreed. China imports a certain amount of the soybeans from the United States. So because of this is a political issue, China can use this as a card to deal with the United States. For example, recently the US permits weapon export to Taiwan. In this case, as a response, China can limit to import soybeans from the United States could possible. So that's why, view from the business, there is no benefit for China, but view from the politics, this is benefit for China. That's why China exploit this as a card, and the US side say, of course it will happen, but China try to use it as a card and something, the ambiguity they try to show.
Do you think that President Trump is seriously suggesting that China will adjust its agricultural policy to bring more U.S. or continue purchasing U.S. soybeans instead of where they are getting now from Brazil or Argentina?
Of course, there is a political background. Escalating US-China tension, of course, the China side want to find alternative source instead of the United States. And this kind of attitude make the pressure to the farmer in the United States, which could be the support of the President Trump. And so that is the reason this is a card. And indeed, this is a card because US-China competition is, of course, escalated since simply last decade, yes. But at the same time, this is long-term competition between US and China. Just now, it is not easy to escalate so drastically because US economy, China's economy is very strong relation, strong bond. And if the U.S. try to decouple with China just now, for example, the supply of rare, supply of others will be problem. So that's why the U.S. farmer in the United States, they need to find alternative market, but it is not easy to find. In the long run, they need to find. So that's now they want to export soybeans or other agriculture products to China. So in this case, U.S. President Trump need to care about this, and midterm election is coming next year. So before it, temporarily, U.S.-China trade is needed. So that's why this soybeans issue is a card, and China has advantage. The U.S. Try to ask China to buy, so that kind of situation has happened.
Do you think
But
that
because of this is a diplomatic card, anytime China try to exploit it, that's why this is still uncertain.
right, and how might this agricultural purchase talks between US and China influence broader trade relations between them?
Of course, in the long run, U.S. farmer need to find alternative market instead of China, because U.S.-China competition has been escalating and step by step. So this is not 1 decade ago, this is not 2 decades ago, this is now far deteriorated. Of course, in the future it will more deteriorate, we can expect. So in the long run, they need to decouple with the Chinese market. That is needed. But at the same time, just temporary, it is impossible to do that. So that's why in the short term, of course, they need to agree. But from China's side, they have already found enough amount of soybeans or other agricultural products. So that's why temporarily China has the advantage.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Satoru for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now moving on to Japan and China.